Today I want to talk about what Sony camera I am thankful for this holiday season. So before I go and tell you which camera I am the most thankful for this season, there are a few that I want to talk about. If you take a look right here and right here, you see that there are more than a few Sony cameras that I've acquired throughout my journeys and my travels. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at each one and kind of compare and contrast them. And at the end of the video, I'm going to go ahead and tell you which camera that I am personally the most thankful for. So to start off with the first camera we're going to be looking at, we're going to go ahead and take an APS-C blast to the past and take a look down here at this good old Sony a6000 with the kit lens. Now, if you've watched my previous videos, you know that I personally didn't like the kit lens very much because I thought it was a little bit too soft and it really only delivered sharp images at f8. There were a lot of people that agreed with me, but I'm still pretty much of the mind that no, kit lens isn't great, but I think for video, it could work out. Now back to the a6000 though, again, it was a very little cheap camera, but it had a pretty quick frames per second. You had some fast bursts. It had good autofocus. And the best thing about this camera for me was that it did deliver a step up from like regular phone photos. Back at the time, it was the iPhone 5 and the iPhone 6 is what was out. So the iPhones were still kind of finding their footing as far as photos and things that went. Okay, so the a6000, good little camera. I took it on a trip to Thailand and captured many good images with it too as well. I was very impressed with it. And again, the camera was cheap enough that if something happened to it, it's not that big of a deal too as well. So the a6000, of course it's dated by today's standards, but at the time it was a little bit of a workhorse. It did a lot in a very small, compact package. And these are the days when the DSLR still ruled the roost and the Canons were about yay big. Here's a fun fact. I actually started off with a Canon 70D and I did like that one, but what pushed me towards Sony was the fact that when I bought that 70D, when I was using the viewfinder to look through, the actual mirror to see and for it to focus and take photos, and for some reason that focus, I just couldn't nail it no matter what I did. And so I could use the focus using this right here, but unfortunately though, they were different. This one was a dual pixel autofocus, which focused great, but when you're looking through the viewfinder of the 70D, I just couldn't nail it. And I took it to Canon and they were like, well, nothing's wrong with it. And so I said, okay, fine. So that's what kind of pushed me to Sony too. So a little fun fact there. So the a6000, great camera. Again, relatively cheap at the time, still kind of cheap now. I enjoy it, I like it. There's an issue with the sensor though. Unfortunately, the sensor gets, it has these weird green and purple like hues that the a6300 would later kind of fix up too as well. So speaking of the 6300, we go into the future and now we're at the a6500. So this one right here too as well. It was a step up from the 6000 and two features or two ways that I thought were pretty good. So the first one was that we had a huge buffer on this one now. So you could sit there and you could shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot. And the buffer, it would take up to, I want to say like 200 photos or something for that buffer to really start filling up. Unfortunately, while the buffer was running, you couldn't get into the menus and all that, but it still gave you a lot more flexibility when shooting, bursts like for animals and things of that nature. Also, another shout out, 4K shooting. The a6300 technically did it first for that, but the 6500 really kind of brought it to the forefront. Unfortunately though, there was a couple of niggles with this one. The screen when you were shooting outside was very dim, it was very hard to see. So there's a video I'm gonna go ahead and put up so you can kind of see what I did. Very tough to shoot in that sunlight. I was able to make it, but it just wasn't ideal. And then also, one of the good things about this camera though is that the sensor was improved. So the 6300 sensor was different than the 6000 sensor. Still plenty sharp, still pretty good. But the main thing though was that they kind of fixed that hue or saturation or that cast on there too as well. So when you're playing with a dynamic range on these cameras, it was a whole lot better, So I was very pleased with this one. This was a workhorse camera for quite a while. The autofocus is good on it too. I talked about the buffer. That was really nice. We had good 4K shooting. Unfortunately, these cameras did tend to overheat, so that was a little bit of a negative, but still, I think as far as the positives, I mean, I really got more than my money's worth from this A6500 right here. Very nice camera. Okay, now moving forward, I started looking at the bridge cameras and things of that nature. We have the RX10 Mark IV. This is what I call the last of the kings, because this is an almost do-all camera. You get your 4K video, you get your phase detect autofocus on here too, which rectified that from the Mark III. Of course, you get your 24 to 600 mil focal length equivalent. Amazing camera, I love it. This is my go-to camera because I can get this into stadiums. I can take it outside with me, I can take it on trips with me, and instead of having to have a huge whole bag worth of things, I just have this right here. This camera is amazing. Unfortunately, because this was the last of its kind, the prices have kind of spiked in recent years, so you're going to be likely buying it for a lot of the, I want to say, sometimes the same price as if you're buying it new. Luckily, I was able to get a good deal on this from the camera. The camera has served me very well. I'm very happy with the RX10 Mark IV. So when we talk about the specialty cameras, I was okay with the APS-C line. I didn't feel the need for the A7 or the A7 II, to be honest with you. One thing that did impress me though is when I walked into the Sony store in Singapore for the first time, I saw an ad for that 4K video of the A7R2. So then I want to talk about that one too as well, which kind of leads me to that. So Sony A7R2 is what we have right here. Okay. This was the original beast of a camera, and I mean a beast. 42 megapixels. At the time, that wasn't a normal thing, and what I can tell you is that this camera right here delivered some of my favorite images of all time. And it's not just about the fact that you can blow it up to whatever, it's more about the fact that it really had a lot of great dynamic range in it. So you can take photos in not great conditions and then come out with the photo that I thought was actually really, really nice. Putting it through Lightroom and seeing what we can do with those photos, that was really, really great. Like I said about the A6000, once you shot those photos, you can do some stuff with it, but it really started to move that dynamic range up and down the needle. Ooh, it really fell apart fast. This A7R2 though was great. No matter what you did with it, you know, you were almost bound to get a good shot. Now, onto the other end of the spectrum, we had the low light king, which right here is the A7S II. So at the point of the A7S and the A7S II being released, we didn't have a lot of low light options besides just either shooting with a 1.8 or lower aperture and just things of that nature, maybe making long exposures. This camera right here though really kind of changed the game and made its inwards road into like cinematography, videography, things of that nature, because of that low light performance. It was only 12 megapixels, but what you got though were stills and video that were really, really, really light years ahead of what was available at that time. Unfortunately, and fortunately I guess, you could say it's both double-edged sword. Today's cameras have caught up with that technology, which has kind of rendered the A7S II a little bit obsolete, but matter of fact, they still work pretty good today too as well. I mean, they're getting some issues there, but for the most part, they work really well. So, but then we got to look to the future, right? And then now all of a sudden, we have cameras with USB-C, we have cameras that don't have any limits on recording, things of that nature, things that should have been in the first place, but the technology just wasn't there yet, but now it's here. And so, lo and behold, we got the A7 IV right here. Nice full frame, 33 megapixel camera, basically do-all, does great 4K, has a high burst rate, you can do birds, you can do action, you can do a lot of different things. Of course, it's not going to compare to the A9 II or the A1 or any of that type of thing, but those are cameras for a different market. So with the A7 IV, has largely delivered me, it's been my workhorse camera for quite a while. And if I do personal work, if I do work for clients, professional work, all that stuff, the A7 IV really does the job. I still have a little bit of what's called gear acquisition syndrome, much to the chagrin of the wife. So I'm going to move back over here to the APS-C realm, and we're going to talk about this A6700 right here. So this is the natural logical extension from the A6000 series on up. I didn't worry about the 61 through the 6600 just because the 6500 for me was still good enough, and they were steps up, excuse me, but they just weren't a huge step up enough for me to be like, yeah, I'm gonna get those ones and this one. But the 6700, I got it, really enjoyed it. What can I say but that it is a beast of an APS-C camera. Really enjoy it a whole lot. It's my secondary B cam for a lot of things too as well. It's the counterpoint to my FX30. FX30 is my main YouTube type of camera, but the 6700 also works in a lot of different aspects as well. So, which leads me to the last camera I'm going to talk about right here, which is going to be the Sony A7R5. So we talked about the gear acquisition syndrome. So this for me was a total vanity purchase, but it was a Black Friday deal. It was $900 off, and I'd said, what the heck? I looked at it for a while, but just never thought I needed it. But then when I saw $900 off, I said, well, actually I need it. So I went ahead and bought it. 61 megapixels, you do get 8K. It's not great 8K. There's a whole lot of rolling shutter and some other issues, but you still get solid 4K, and it is a solid performing video. So I'm looking forward to doing lots of tests with this camera right now. Matter of fact, can't wait to hook it up to the Sony 200 to 600 and see what we go from there, like what kind of wildlife shots I can get from there too as well. So 61 megapixels, of course it's a significant step up from the old Sony A7R II, but a logical one, and I'm happy I got it. Just can't wait for some more opportunities to use it, because right now the A7 IV is basically me doing all my stuff, and it is really using most of my camera time, because that's still pretty good. But with that being said, we're here about the end of the video, and the question that I have is, well, what camera here was I thankful for? And I do have to say that I'm thankful for all of these cameras. I mean, all of these cameras have been in a huge part of the journey of my life at various junctures, and they've taken me to far off places and completely different countries and really back and forth around the world. So I don't know where I would have been with that if it had been for this little lowly A6000 that I decided to buy because I was mad at Canon, and I said, I'm going to take this, I'm going to go take it out to Thailand, go take some shots, and then all of a sudden that turned into all over the world and all of this too as well. So with that being said, I'm very thankful and very happy for all these cameras right here. I hope this was a nice, interesting video for you guys. Hope you guys are having a happy holidays, and I hope your Thanksgiving was a great one. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again in another video. Until next time.